To order the regular meeting of the Lake Forest Community High School Board of Education for December 1st, 2015. May I have a roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mormon?
Here.
Mrs. Kryling?
Here.
Mr. Lane?
Here.
Dr. Elliott?
Here.
Ms. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Powers?
Here.
Mr. Markison?
Here. Has anyone ever heard of Rabbit Day? Do you know what Rabbit Day is? The first day of every month? Yes. My sister told me this, and I'm not sure if it's true, but if the first words out of your mouth are rabbit, that you will have good luck for the rest of the month.
And I did it this morning. I did too.
Yeah, so I gotta, usually about 99% of the time you will forget it, but I didn't. So, Sally? I know. Way to go. We're good.
That explains a lot.
That explains a lot, but you are not supposed to remind the person. You cannot put your hand over your spouse's mouth and tell her to say rabbit. It has to come spontaneously, otherwise it's all ruined. That's what I've been told by the Rules Committee. So I have a very, very short report. First of all, I can't believe it's December. I lost the first 11 months of this year. We're very excited to hear the work of the Schedule Committee. This is something that the board has been talking about, thinking about, worrying about, hoping for a long time. So we're very excited to finally, even though we've heard updates all along, to hear this report tonight. So that's all I have to say, and I will turn it over to the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Markison. So I'd like to hand it off to Dr. Holland and our students to begin.
Okay, we will start with Jake and Jill.
So like I explained last meeting, we had a really cool opportunity to do a soup kitchen and make 100 care packages to hand out at the soup kitchen in Waukegan. Dr. Holland joined us. We served food and socialized with all the members that attended that night. They really enjoyed it and appreciated our presence. We also, some of the stuff that we put in the care packages were socks, hand sanitizer, Kleenex, snacks, etc., which will all be very well received and used, and we'll definitely be going back.
All-around council adopts 10 families, like from a Catholic charity, and buys them holiday presents. So each individual class, so freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, is assigned 2. And they've all done their fundraising already, and we're taking a trip this weekend to Target to buy like all the toys and things like that, and they will be going off soon to those families.
So just to follow up, I know there was a question asked last meeting about kind of where our money comes from and our budget. And so last year we decided to raise our dance prices a couple dollars so we could have, that extra money to use around the community and surrounding communities to do a lot of charitable events. And, we also raise our own money through the dances and use that throughout the year. So any questions that you guys have for us? Thank you.
Thank you both. So connected with what both Jake and Jill shared, there's a lot of, our students have been engaged in a lot of community service, as well as just creating opportunities to give back to a variety of organizations, a variety of people. And it really just has reminded me of the importance of social responsibility and service, and that's a key embedded part of the culture of the high school. I was fortunate to be able to go with student council to serve meals and give care packages. I think what spoke the most to me about that experience is that it wasn't just about going and giving. I believe they received a lot back from the members that they engaged with. It wasn't just about, here's something for you, we're here to serve you, but they sat down at tables, they had conversations, they served, and they had a good time. And it was just an awesome experience. And I think a core part of what I'm realizing, there's a variety of ways to give, and our students are giving time, which to me is key. They're giving smiles and they're giving goods, and so they're giving in a lot of different ways. And so in addition to that, we've had a food drive, a book drive, Toys for Tots, where over 200 toys were made. And so these are just some examples of the ways that our students are giving. We're excited that winter sports are underway, and we have our clubs and activities have already been planning a lot of different things. I meet with students regularly about events coming up that they're excited about and that they're looking forward to carrying out. We're excited about the holiday concert that's coming up next weekend as well. There's a couple surprises embedded in that, so we hope everyone can come out. And I just want to say thanks to all our students who continue to give us feedback. I spent a lot of time in meetings with them and other teachers or administrators, giving them voice and allowing them to share their perspectives regarding ways to improve the experience that we're providing for them. And it's not just coming and sharing, but they actually go out, seek information, come back, and engage the process all the way through to getting to a solution. And there's an example of that with our work around the library. And so these are ongoing things that happen in the high school. We are finishing up our final week of our ACT test prep course that we're offering for the first time. We're asking our students to provide us with feedback regarding the experience so we can continue to make it better for them. And we are planning for our second semester. We're rolling out the experience in a slightly different way because of the timing of the ACT. But we're offering an online course, but we'll have embedded support. I shouldn't say embedded support. We're offering support on site for students as a check-in for the Saturdays. And so it's a different way of delivering the course, but we're going to learn from this experience and see the reach that this has as well. And as you'll hear tonight, we're really excited about the work of our scheduling committee. It's been an awesome experience, a very positive experience, and we're excited to share that work with you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Holland, Jake, and Jill. I feel like I had to do a nursery rhyme at this point. I really appreciate the observation about how giving our students are. We have many reasons to be proud of our kids, and I don't know if there's anything that gives us more reason for that than how much they reflect the community values of giving back, and paying forward. That's really all around us. It comes from the homes that our kids come from, and it's one of the things that every single time really impresses people when they see not just that our kids give of goods, but they give of themselves. The most valuable thing for all of us is always our time, so thank you for that. Our board agenda is short today, but we have two very interesting reports that will perhaps be followed by extensive discussion. So in the interest of time, I'd like to pass on one piece of important information for the superintendent's report. In March of this year, the Illinois School Board put out an RFP for a statewide college admissions test. Two companies responded, the ACT and the College Board, known to many as the makers of AP exams, whose test is known as the SAT. On November 20th, ISB released the results of their evaluation, announcing the College Board, or SAT, as the clear winner of the RFP. There will be a period of probably 2 years until the state begins to utilize the new test. Also, because the state does not currently have a budget, the state's past practice of universal testing or testing all students in grade 11 has not been confirmed. We can expect further clarifications on the significant change to take place in the coming months. It bears repeating that the Illinois State Board of Education has approved the SAT as the test of choice for the state of Illinois and will be releasing further information on its rollout soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simic. Now is the time for public participation. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board? None? We're going to move on to our reports. Dr. Maher on college acceptance.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight on our college admissions of our students at Lake Forest High School, and also some other college-related material. As we get started, we get to report that the class of 2015 has selected a wide variety of colleges and schools across our country. They're in 39 different states across the Union, and also found colleges in Canada and Scotland. I always enjoy learning the different schools that they choose. Again, so many different interests and so many places to find ways for them to develop and grow. Also, I would like to report that University of Illinois continues to be the most popular four-year public university of choice of Lake Forest High School students. About 34 students are currently attending from the class of 2015. Also, other popular schools for the public sector is Indiana, Wisconsin, Miami of Ohio also continues to be ranked very highly amongst our kids. And then in private schools, Marquette continues to be of great interest for our kids. And so we're very excited about the success of the class of 15 and hearing about their success stories. And also this past week, a number of kids did visit the high school to share some stories. I want to talk a little bit more about that again in a little bit in my report. So, and the next piece here, let's see if I can. I'd like to switch gears a little bit. We're very excited about learning about the National Student Clearinghouse data. This is data that is beginning to develop and matching our students with where their progress is at universities across the country. And this particular data can provide us with information to answer some basic questions. What are the graduation rates of our students? How long does it take them to graduate? The National Center for Education Statistics reports a national baseline for students for full-time, first-time graduates who complete a four-year degree within 6 years or less is 59% across the country. I'm not sure how that rings with the community here. That's an interesting number that we discovered a little bit ago, a year ago. And now that we have actually a way to monitor our students' progress against that proportion through this data. Currently from the data that so our first cohort of information that we've put in is a class of 2009, which would be the college class of 2013. Which also means in 2015 gave them the 6 years to meet the requirement that the National Center for Education Statistics uses. And of our cohort, 75% of our kids have graduated with a four-year degree in that same time frame. Okay? Again, this is a beginning point of what we can learn from this data. We've dug into it a little bit deeper, and we've found some additional information. But again, it's a starting point for what we can learn. Our school counselors are also very interested in what this can tell us, and we recognize that this is data that is somewhat incomplete. Less than 5% of our students who graduated in 2009 were not reported in this data. We also recognize that we've done some of our own verification that there are a couple of students whose progress is not accurate within the database, but we are very much interested and like to continue to verify that data and continue to, again, use it to find out what else we can learn from it. Employers use this data. Again, it is reliable. Employers use this data to check students' their education credentials and things like that across the country. And so I think it's a valuable resource that we could use to help us, again, study the success of our students. I'm going to check my notes here before I continue here. So again, we'll continue to monitor get our feedback about the class of 10, 11, 12, and 13 as they continue to progress through school. The other, in my time here, that I want to talk about also are some trends that we've been reading about, both in mainstream literature and also in our school counseling literature and education literature. And I want to just mention 3 particular developments. I don't know if they're necessarily trends, but they're things that we're learning more about. Recently discussed is the Coalition for Access. This is a website that has been a collaboration of 80 universities throughout the country. The idea is to provide a free online application for seniors in high school. It is to level the playing field for all high school seniors. Another purpose is also, though, to get kids interested in thinking about their secondary plans at a much earlier age. The website has 3 components to it. It has a virtual locker for students to save their current high school work, essays, videos, artwork. It's an interesting connection to another point that I'm going to make in a little bit here. They also have a collaboration platform for students to then get feedback from mentors or teachers from other schools or even professors from universities. And then the third component is the application portal, which again allows students to complete the application process. This initial initiative, the initial iteration of this program will be available to all students throughout the country in April of 2016, and we'll see how that develops. Now, the interesting connection between that, I think, between increasing number of test optional schools that you see there, also reported in mainstream media, is that there are 200 of the 3,300 4-year institutions that are no longer requiring an ACT or SAT exam score for entrance. So they're looking for more non-standard numeric pieces of data to measure their students. Again, so the combination between both the Coalition for Access and the increased number of test optional schools to me is indicating some sort of a trend that we're getting away from, again, standardized testing. It's the beginning of something. I'm not saying it's a full-blown trend here, but there's an interesting connection between those 2 items. And the last thing I'd like to also mention at this time is how do the AP credit for students affect their college graduation rates? Are kids graduating early? Are we working to save our parents some money to graduate early? And based on reports from the College Board and also an interview from the Miami University president, students are choosing to have a full 4-year college experience. So even if they come in with 20 AP credits, they're still going to pursue a 4-year degree. They're also pursuing multiple degrees in order to fill out that time. And so we're not getting that cost savings that maybe some parents think that they might get. And so those are some things that I would love to be able to continue to share with the community. The full presentation is online that provides much more information. We're just kind of hitting some highlights as I go through this report. Does the board have questions?
Yeah, Tom, I have 2. The first one is, I guess, somewhat rhetorical, okay, but the line from Animal House, 7 years of college down the drain, comes to mind. So help me with we are now measuring the crazy success of 59% of college students graduating with a 4-year degree in 6 years.
Yes.
And that's a success?
Well, that's a baseline that I've found as a national baseline. And so, whether
And
you
at the
call
same
that a
time, we have
success-
AP classes increasing
Right.
at a significant rate, which is great. Like I said, it's rhetorical. That's crazy.
Well, I mean, to add to that, you know, there are programs that are planned to be 5-year programs to begin with. Architecture programs are often 5-year programs.
yeah, but it's at a 4-year degree, not a 5-year degree.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. All right. And then real quick, can you give me an example of one of the 200 schools that's not requiring SAT or ACT? Not a trick question,
Yeah.
just something
No,
come to
no, I
mind.
got it. I'm sorry. I'm going to go to
Is
my
it
alma mater, but
University of
Notre
Southeast,
Dame and
Northeast, Central, such and such, or is it
no. Notre Dame and Ivy League schools. I don't want to mention
Notre
kids.
Dame does not require an ACT or
No.
SAT?
Nope.
Wow, okay.
Low expectations there, by the way.
Just,
Well,
just
that's
stuck
why
out
I
in my
didn't
head.
go there.
I could not resist that one. Sorry, Tom. So, Mr. Powers, you'll also be pleased to learn that the average age of emancipation is now 26 years of age. So not only are they not graduating after 7 years, but they're moving into the basement. So, Tom, could you tell us the National Student Clearinghouse? This is new. This is relatively new for us. I mean, we started looking into it last year. You started looking into it last year. Now we've got some really meaningful data that I think will probably continue. What percentage of our students are accounted for? You may have said this already in this National Student Clearinghouse data that we have. So of the 2009 cohort, what percentage of those kids show up in this report?
Approximately 95%. So we report, yeah, they have 404 students in their database, 17 of which they don't have records for. We had a larger graduating class than 404, though.
I had a couple of questions. I'm going to try and combine them just in the interest of time. As someone that had 2 kids go through the college selection process, it's stressful. Kids, parents, I mean, you guys live with this every day. I mean, what do you think you can do better? Not so much to relieve the stress. It's probably by nature a stressful experience, a big decision, but to help them navigate the course. Because I had one kid who, you know, went right down a straight path, and another student, if she's watching this, which I doubt, because she's studying, she's probably studying. You know, she was, you know, kind of all over the place. Ultimately made the right decision, but I felt helpless. I mean, so that's why I'm asking there must be some things that you think you could do better to help. Focus might be too strong of a word, but help them better navigate the course without causing so much of a stress.
I mean, to respond respectfully, this is very new data to us. And we have some concerns and cautions about changing programs based on this data at this point. We would love to supplement it with a surveying to find out if it's accurate. We would love to also reach out to our current, you know, the kids that are in school. There's also problems with because who's going to respond to that? Are the kids that are successful? Who's not going to respond? And so we are a little bit nervous about using this data to drive programs at this time. You know, again, how do we go and provide kids programs so they can be more successful? You know, it's possible that an executive functioning, you know, program could help something like that. It could also placing kids properly in the right school in the beginning so that they can be successful, our ideas. And then also, you know, our curriculum, I feel, is fantastic what we've seen. Our kids are going to colleges and they are being successful. They come back and report to us anecdotally, again, Thanksgiving and in the holiday season going forward, that how successful they are. I would like to find out more about using this data to support those stories, and so that we can then design programs to meet those needs that you're suggesting. To me, we're very much in a learning stage on this, an exploration stage on this data.
Thanks, Tom. I had a couple questions. Is that right? Okay. So, I mean, I think it's great that we're looking at outcome measures. We have to be doing that. I was a little surprised in your report that you used U.S. News and World admission statistics instead of the National Data Reporter. Doesn't the Department of Education publish admission statistics on the College Navigator?
Okay, and the pages that you're referring to on the acceptance rates?
Yeah.
In the report? That has been, this report has been given, the first portion of this report regarding where the kids go to school has followed kind of a standard format for quite some number of years. And that has been the benchmark that has been used in the past.
Okay.
I mean, I'd certainly look at those reports, or those percentages from a different publication to see if that's more applicable.
And the other thing that really struck me, and it also as a parent struck me, is how many of our students are going to very large universities. And we happen to live in the Midwest, which has some amazing small colleges. And I've been frustrated as a parent that my kids are interested, and then there's sort of this culture of got to go to a Big Ten rah-rah school. And frankly, as a faculty member, I feel like the educational opportunities at the undergrad level are actually often better in a smaller college. Are those colleges getting in the door to meet with our students? I mean, what is the philosophy of college advice about trying to encourage a few of these very high-quality schools in the area?
Certainly. There are over 200 schools that visit our high school in the first quarter of the school year. And you know, we see, I always love quizzing people to find out if they know the mascot for Chapman and Claremont McKenna and small schools like that. So I would say yes, those schools do get represented in our high school. It's interesting that you bring up the pure number of kids that attend the large schools versus these smaller schools. When we look through the 139 different schools that they've chosen, the class of 2015 has chosen, what I'm thinking about when you asked that question was we ought to group those small colleges, because it's possible that a higher percentage go to those small colleges versus that, and I could be
really
wrong, and
hasn't
that's why it
been
would
my
be an
impression.
interesting analysis. So it's easily done, and so that's something I'll
I
go
just
back
feel
and
like
do.
it's something in the culture of the kids that they start talking up these big schools, and it's hard to attract them to something which is arguably a better education. So.
Okay.
One more question I had was, if we're at a 75% graduation rate in 6 years, do you know what other North Shore high schools are at?
I haven't gotten that far into the data yet at this time. It's a great, wonderful question. I think that's up for our faculty and us to determine, is that good enough for us, and to look at it. I mean, like I said, this is a very beginning process. You know, against the national average or the national proportion, it's better, but is that good enough for us?
We know if you go from more suburban districts, similar size districts, similar communities, they have 92%. I'm kind of like John. I thought it was
Yeah.
75% when you throw it out there, just seems low, not compared to 59%.
Yeah.
Just curious, how does that?
Yeah. I present this data objectively without any kind of judgment on top of it right now, because it's so new. And that one, there's a portion of, like I said, that it's incomplete, and I'd like to continue to verify so that we have confidence. Many of my counterparts and student services at other schools are very skeptical about the data, but in the work that I've done in preparation for this report, I've found that it's better than a lot of other schools think. And if I can take another moment to make one last point, many other schools feel that our students don't get represented in this data because they go to smaller private schools. And so I went through the list of participating universities that the NSC uses and against our places where our kids go. And I found one school that wasn't represented. So it's a myth that, again, I think that for my analysis, I think I've dispelled. And I feel very good about the information that I present to you in our community.
Do they talk about it national conferences or national publications, just the cost of college? I mean, does that, that locks out a lot of kids. Is that one of the reasons why that 59% is sounds so atrocious? Kids just run out of money or run out of the ability to?
Well, and I think you answered my rhetorical question, too. That could be the reason it's taken people 6 years, because they got to take a semester off to work to earn the money to pay. I mean, on a serious.
I don't have all of the, the data does report kids that return to the program, and they also, it does track student transfers and things like that. Again, I think because of the value that this community places on college education and the dollars that are at stake, that I would love to have the permission to pursue this more and more and more. Is basically what I would like to start tonight.
You know, just one serious comment too, and I know my daughter's not watching this, so I'm safe. But my one data point from having a college freshman, I think she herself was surprised at how prepared she was. And, you know, a handful of AP classes, did very well, self-starter, the whole thing. But when she got there, the teachers in the audience and those watching at home and the administration in general, I think does a wonderful job preparing our kids. And even to the point that our kids are even surprised. They don't know that they have the confidence to do as well as they do, and they get there, they do great. So thank you.
Thank you. I agree. Thank you very much.
Next, school day schedule update. Dr. Holland, Dr. Wilcox.
Good evening. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing the upcoming presentation. I'm Lori Wilcox, and I'm, again, incredibly proud and pleased to be standing here this evening. It feels like it's been a long time coming. When Dr. Holland was speaking about the students and just taking pride in the time that they're giving and the fact that they're giving of themselves, I was thinking that it's worth sharing the same comment for the members of the scheduling committee, many of whom are here this evening. So if you can raise your hand if you're a member of the schedule committee for some acknowledgement, the fact that this many people came out this evening to show solidarity for a really great process. We spent a lot of time before school, after school, during school, thinking about how to enhance the overall student experience. There were many, many conversations, much time and energy put forth, but we ended in a really great place. End is probably not the right word. There is still work ahead of us, which Dr. Holland and Steve Douglas, two members of the schedule committee, will be sharing with you with this update. This update is going to be shared with all staff tomorrow morning, and then next week we will be taking the show on the road to talk with parents, share with them where we're at, share the structure that we've agreed upon. Again, there's still work ahead, but I am so pleased to be able to share with you that we have a structure and we feel really great about it. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to share a little bit of the backstory of the work that we were able to do together. During the successful discussions culminating in the 2015 to 2019 contract, the 115 Board of Education, LFHS administrators, and teachers agreed to re-examine our daily schedule. A new committee comprised of teachers and administrators was charged with generating a new school day schedule that would enhance the overall student experience.
20 teachers representing all departments and instructional areas of Lake Forest High School were a part of our team. We also had 10 administrators representing instructional leadership from both the high school and the district office. We conducted over 20 meetings with students, parents, teachers, and staff seeking input on their goals and priorities and their hopes for a new schedule. As a result of those feedback meetings, we vetted a lot of information as a group and identified shared interests across all stakeholder groups. Those interests were a later start to the school day, an increasing student choice and support, time for faculty collaboration, varying our lengths of instructional periods, examining and re-examining lunch, all of these things while maintaining instructional continuity and consistency.
So through this process, we were able to identify quite a few different interests going through the process. And so we went through a lengthy process of engaging a lot of data collection from the community, our school community, through research, not only locally, but regionally and nationally and internationally. And we were able to take site visits as well. So we were able to go to other states as well as do Skype opportunities from around the Midwest and around the nation. Along with interviews. When we went to those site visits, we were able to talk to teachers, counselors, administrators, students, and to be able to get and glean their insight on their schedule. So while no existing schedule employed at another school fit exactly our unique needs at Lake Forest High School and our identified interests, we considered 3 possible different options to be able to go through. There's traditional, we called them traditional, hybrid, and modular. So we formed into 3 teams, those 3 teams, and we went to look to see if we could tailor a specific identified goals that Shayla just mentioned for our needs at Lake Forest High School. All 3 types of the schedules attempted to address our identified shared interests in different ways.
So the committee evaluated these newly created schedules and a common consensus was reached. Both administrators and teachers overwhelmingly supported implementing a hybrid model with an embedded lunch. The schedule committee approved the structure for next year's daily schedule, but many details, including exact timing, just to name one thing, but there's many things, are still evolving. So we call this the LFHS, Lake Forest High School Hybrid, because that's exactly what it is. So a part of the structure, on Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays, we have 8 45-minute periods and an embedded lunch. An embedded lunch simply means that all students will have a lunch period, a lunch time allotted in the day, and it's no longer taking up a period of the day. It's embedded in the structure. Wednesday and Thursdays, there are 4 85-minute periods and an embedded lunch.
And then we have Scout Days. So as you can see, the color coordination along the ways. The 8-period days are Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, very similar to what students currently experience in their normal day with the embedded lunch. And then on Wednesday and Thursday, on blue and gold days we call it, 4 longer periods for more project-based learning, inquiry, and other innovative projects.
So in line with the latest research and best practices, students will benefit from later start time of 8:15 on Scout Days and 8:50 on the blue and gold days.
The extra period of lunch creates the equivalent of a 9-period day, allowing for more student choice and opportunity and support.
The extra period also allows for increased possibilities for students to take an elective class like art, band, new media, or many more of the electives that we offer. Students could even elect to take an additional core class during that time, while still keeping the full college preparatory load that they currently receive. With this new schedule, students have expanded opportunities for new learning experiences that might have previously been unavailable.
On student support, the Thursday mornings will allow all students to have something we've called personal learning time, where teachers will be available for personalized support. Extra time in the day will also provide opportunities for students to have a study hall or other enhanced academic support for resource centers, peer tutors, classroom teachers, and special education teachers. So this schedule also provides weekly support times for faculty collaboration. This time would be used to support administrative and district initiatives that we currently don't necessarily have unless we do a late start, as well as allowing departments and course content teams to develop and improve curriculum and best practices.
So the key thing that our committee continued to come back to during this entire process were our shared interests. And so we're happy to report that our hybrid model meets our common goals. Embedded in the structure, we have a later start to the school day, a time slot for additional classes, increased student personal learning time and support, time for faculty collaboration, flexibility for the length of our instructional periods. All students will now have a lunch. All of this while maintaining instructional continuity and consistency. Our hybrid model provides new and exciting opportunities for students while also maintaining continuity and consistency for a successful transition to a new daily schedule. We remain deeply committed to implementing best practices that will maintain the standard of the excellence that is Lake Forest High School, and we're very excited about the road ahead.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I have one question. You mentioned earlier that it was one of the shared interests that came out, and it was one of the things that have been found in research that the later start would be beneficial for the students. Was there no way to accommodate those early bird classes and do away with them? Or that's just the way it had to work out?
Good question. So we did look at a variety of different ways to accommodate our early bird classes, but based on the vetting of our team, that our team went through, the vetting process, we decided to leave those opportunities there, recognizing that they are starting a little later than normal, but we also didn't want to go too far out of the way to try to find additional times. I mean, we could possibly look at that, re-examine that, but that's where we landed with that.
Thank you. No, that's great. You definitely made some advancements for those kids who want to take those classes. It's not quite as early. I was just curious if it was, some of those longer blocks couldn't have accommodated it. But thank you.
A few previews and updates along the way, but I apologize for asking this question, but I see maybe seeing the teachers in the audience made me think of this. I mean, is there a way to walk us through, just because a few of us have been out of high school for a few years, what would a typical science class, social studies class, math class look like in a typical week? I mean, what's going to happen on those blue and gold days that are different than the traditional, what we think of as a school day?
Yeah, sure. I'll try and work my way through, and I'd love to have any support from anybody else who'd like to, especially from the science department. But as you can tell, we're talking about the kind of color coding and how it works as you kind of work your way through the actual day. So say you have a science class or a math class, second hour, you'll have it at the exact same time where you're going Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And so we looked at a variety of models, some that kind of move things around, but we really thought that continuity was really important for students. And then as you go through, you see that so second hour is, we'll look at that kind of the orange color. Then you would have that class on Thursday morning. And so the way that you would balance it, you'd have 4 days of instructional time and contact for the teachers, which is another really important thing that we saw, not only the research, but also as the different kind of faculty came together and had a consensus around how important it was to kind of talk. So really it is very similar going through your normal school week.
But what could happen in a longer period versus?
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, so come on up. There's a lot of different things that you can do depending on the actual subject. So we'll give one expert.
Yeah, so this is really like one of there's a couple $64,000 questions here, and this is definitely one of them. So I think a lot of people don't really know what they're going to do. I mean, I think if you went into the school tomorrow morning in the faculty meeting, I'm sure this question will also be asked. Yeah, that'll be asked for sure. I taught on a schedule in a previous life. I taught on a schedule very similar to this. I taught on a schedule that was a full block day, so I taught 80-minute blocks every day. What this schedule does, or what I hope it will eventually allow us to do, is to try to pace out curricular content in a more realistic way. So like, it sounds hokey, but there's like a semi-technical word in the biz called grain size of ideas. And so what you have right now is a system where every day you are given the same amount of time. And so everything sort of becomes flat and like it's all the same size and you can't do anything else other than like have this 50-minute thing. And so what this allows people to do is to say, okay, in my unit, what are the ideas that I really want more time to focus on as a whole block of instruction? What in my unit plan, what are not all these ideas are the same value, some of them are more important. And so you can actually literally weight those by placing them specifically on those days. So there's a lot of activities or longer things that you would want students to explore, analyze, and discuss, and like sort of have that all be wrapped up. And that can now happen in some of these longer blocks. Whereas now under a 50-minute, right, I do a lot of things, and it's like, am I comfortable as a teacher letting the kids leave without having a wrap-up discussion? And so a lot of people are not comfortable doing that, and then that can change instructional practices. So that's one type of thing that this could end up doing. Obviously, like in a science class, doing a lab or some sort of longer activity is also very possible. Yeah.
I have another question in relation to that. You guys had talked about, in previous meetings, you had showed us, Barry showed us Rubicon Atlas. And my understanding is part of the purpose of that was to have everybody start to come together on the same page in terms of the material that was being taught. So if you're in chemistry honors, no matter who's teaching it, it's essentially the same material. Do you think that those two things will dovetail? Do you think that the move to the schedule, which is going to give opportunity but also challenge to rethink how the material is presented, will also give the opportunity for the faculty to sort of jumpstart that collaborative process as well? You see those two things coming together?
Well, we have teacher collaboration built into our model right now. And Atlas Rubicon is software that we're embedding and using for our mapping process of our curriculum. But Atlas Rubicon is great, but at the core of what's essential to us is really the conversations around teaching and learning. What is it that we expect kids to know and be able to do? How do we know what's showing up in the instructional space? And so those conversations and the work that happens and as a result of that, whether it's a shift in what we're teaching, the way that we're assessing, a shift in the experiences that we're providing for kids, show up, and we document that in Atlas Rubicon. And so collaboration is, all that to say, collaboration is still a key part of our work. Documenting it and mapping it out allows us to name this is what's currently happening, recognizing that curriculum is something that should continue to evolve over time and should change based on what we're finding out, how we're growing, as well as our students. And so they're not separate conversations. Our collaboration work will continue. I believe it'll actually expand in a lot of ways, especially because we have more time that we're going to be engaged in these conversations, and we're going to be really looking at what we're providing for kids in the classroom. Longer chunks of time, different uses of our time, and dovetail and correlate with changes in instructional practices as well as instructional materials. We have a lot of innovative work that's already underway in most of our classes, but we're going to be able to even think bigger and think different just because we now are able to use our time differently.
I was just wondering, because not everybody has worked under this schedule before with the longer periods, is there specific, professional development in mind for this spring to help the teachers, adjust to the change?
Absolutely. So, and that's been on the minds of everyone here, the work that we have underway second semester and throughout the summer. And it's not just one type of professional development. We recognize that all of our faculty and staff come from a variety of different experiences and have different areas that they might identify as areas for growth. So teaching in an extended period of time might not be an issue for some teachers, but other teachers might need a jump start on really getting a sense of what that means. And so our hope is to not just provide one form of professional development, but to have a variety of different opportunities for teachers to jump in, to get in where they fit in, where they need the most support, to make this a great experience for our kids.
Any other questions, fellow board members?
I got
Sally?
one more. I'm sorry. I held
No, that's
back on the
okay.
other one.
No,
So,
go
so first of all, I think this is very cool, and I love the idea that there's a combination of both. I see the benefit of the many touch points through the week, but also the opportunity to do sort of more expansive teaching opportunities. I also think maybe having a day off from each class is not a bad thing to sort of catch up. One of the things that my understanding is you guys, the entire group has reiterated as you've been meeting with the students and with the rest of the faculty and all the stakeholders was that this is iterative and that there will be a process of learning and developing and changing over time. Have you thought about, and I know this is very, very new, but have you thought about how you're going to be measuring success next year and how you're going to be taking in data and feedback to figure out how you may want to make adjustments?
We did talk about building in to our structure, continuing to have check-in points, but we have not talked about exactly what that will look like. Part of it is because we don't know. We're still trying to we're going to try to figure out even where kids land and fall within the schedule. So there are still a lot of unknowns that we will, that will be uncovered throughout the process, but that is something that has come up. We plan on assessing this model and making sure that it's not having an adverse impact to where we're headed as a district. And so it's on our minds, but we have not hashed out what that will look like yet.
One last question. I know we still have some students in the audience. This is maybe your first look at the schedule. Do you guys have any feedback you want to share? Okay, Jake and Jill.
I just have a couple questions. So I know that when you take an AP class, you have, a certain amount of months before the actual test. And so you have to get in. I know in my psych class that I'm taking this year, Mr. Borzak is, homework every night. We have to do this, this, and this because he's trying to get everyone, as best prepared for the test as possible. What is kind of the, compared to this year, how it's 50 minutes per, I think it's 8 periods. For this one, how much time would be kind of different from this year? So how much time are we losing through the schedule? I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys have figured that out, but I just want to, know.
Correct me if I'm wrong, this model has 225 minutes of instruction, 220, excuse me. And so there is a 30-minute difference. We had 250 before.
And then, sorry, I have another question. So I took an AP science class last year, and every day we kind of did, we'd learn for, 35, 40 minutes, and then we do a lab at the end of it. In terms of with, sciences, how does that work in this schedule in terms of you have 2 days, or I don't know if I guess you switch off, but what time allots for that in the new schedule to learn for the first 35 minutes and then do a lab at the end of the class period?
So part of our discussions is just naming up front that because of this model, even though you might be used to that structure right now, you'll still have labs embedded in your experience in science. They'll just look different or show up differently. And so it's not that it's not going to happen. Because of our change in our structure, it's just going to show up differently. I don't know if that's as specific as you want. It might not be this chunk of time, it's this, and as you just described.
No, I think that, oh.
You can come up. She needs to come up here. She needs to come up here. Yeah. You need to.
Okay, so what we're doing is AP Sciences are going to be exactly the same. So when we had 6th, 7th last year, it's still going to be 6th, 7th for next year. So we'll still meet 6, 7 for the Scout days, and then we'll meet 6 on the, I think it's the Wednesday, and then 7 on the Thursday. So we'll always be meeting for AP Science every single day. And then even though the minutes are actually more than what we meet currently, we're still going to let you out a little early so that you still have the same amount of time. So it's almost 75 minutes per day, and whatever's left over is also personal learning time for students. So they could stay with the teacher and have extra support even though it's not officially class time. Or they can take that time and go to break or go wherever else they would like to go. So.
Is that for all? Is that for all AP or just AP Sciences?
Just for the AP Sciences because of College Board requirements and what they want time in, and so therefore what we have for the classes in the high school. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, that cleared it up. And, you know, I know a lot of students too are excited for the change and think it's necessary. I know that, you know, kind of going through each period, you know, 5 days a week, expecting the same, you know, schedule every day gets a little tiresome. And so it's interesting to, you know, go Wednesday with some classes and then not have those same classes on Thursdays to kind of mix it up a little bit. So, thank you.
In regards to like if you take a foreign language, so like I take Spanish, am I gonna be able to meet every single day with my Spanish class? Because I feel like a language especially is important that you're speaking it every single day and you're being like interactive with the teacher and verbal communication every single day, because that's like immersion and fluency and stuff like that. Like that's what you want to get towards. So by having this, does that mean I have a whole day in the week that I just don't go, or like I won't go for an 85-minute block because it's not a core class?
You won't have the class, you wouldn't have the class every day, but this gets into our work that we have to unpack and even our professional development. Just because you don't have a class doesn't mean that we can't create opportunities for you to continue learning outside of the class. And so you won't have, to answer your question, no you won't, but we're also considering how to keep that going. It's one day that you won't have the class. And I understand the issue of continuity, but in order to really speak to the rest of the needs as well, this is where we landed. But we're also, all that to say, we understand that that is a concern, and we're also looking at ways to continue learning.
Does that mean, because Spanish isn't considered, or world language in general isn't considered a core, right? It's not. Am I right?
It does, yeah, we're not.
Oh, okay, okay. So I would still meet with my world language class on one of those block days for 85 minutes. Okay.
Afraid to ask if there's any other questions. So, no, don't apologize. No, that was fun. No, that was more insightful questions than we had.
I do want to name, because we've talked a lot about our presentation to the faculty and staff tomorrow. We've learned a lot about our students through this process in terms of ways to engage and solicit feedback, and we haven't been the most successful at that at all times, although we did try to make sure their voices were a part of this process. All that to say, part of our learning is figuring out the ways that we can reach students. And so we're working on a video, recapping our experiencing and providing them with this information as well in a format that hopefully will be more accessible and more engaging for them rather than giving up their lunch to meet with us.
I had just a quick comment. You know, I think one of the wise things we did as a board is to empower a group that knows our students better than we do, that knows their colleagues better than we do, and essentially put the right people in the right place at the right time to do this work. None of us are delusional in terms that it's perfect the first time, but we've talked a lot about, you know, it's really important as our students change the way they learn that we as an organization, particularly those of you that are faculty members, need to change the way that you teach. And this is a really small step towards that. But the good news, at least for me, is this committee is still empowered to do what is necessary to make sure we are successful in a sustainable way. This isn't oversight from a bunch of folks that are volunteering, pretending like we know education to the degree that you guys do. And so please know that you're empowered to do the right stuff and continue to challenge each other. And as Jake and Jill pointed out, hey, there may be some weird anomalies associated with what's going on. Change it, revise it, really test yourself. But I'm impressed with what you've got coming out of the box, because I think it clearly is putting us on the right track.
Thank you. It's exciting to see the result of an idea. I mean, there were a lot of us there, I don't want to say at the beginning, but sort of in the messy middle. We weren't sure where this was going to go. So it's exciting, as John said, to see that people stepped up and collaborated and came to a great process. Still a little bit of the way to go, though, to get it all worked out. So thank you, both of you, everybody. Thanks. So now we move on. Are there any committee reports? I can't remember from month to month. Have there been any committee meetings in the last month?
Not education.
No education.
Finance and Ops has not met formally, but as I have mentioned several times, we continue to work on kind of the overall safety plan related to the school, and you're going to hear more and more about this in the coming weeks and months. Constantly thinking about doing the right stuff, monitoring the people that are coming in and out of the building, and making sure that structure and we're set up the right way from a welcome center perspective. So that's one of the things that we're meeting kind of offline on. There's a formal meeting. Our next Finance and Operations meeting is the 11th of January, so that's at 7:30 in the morning. And then the board meeting, I believe, is that evening, so there'll be more of a detailed update at that point. Thanks.
Thank you. We now move on to our action items. We reviewed the proposed levy at the last meeting. Mr. Albus, is there a presentation on the recommended levy? No?
No, the final levy is recommended as proposed in November, so there's no changes.
Okay, may I have a motion to adopt the 2015 levy as presented?
I move that the Lake Forest Community High School District 115 Board of Education adopt the 2015 levy as presented.
Second? Second. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Carling?
Aye.
Dr. Elliott?
Aye.
Mr. Mormon?
Aye.
Mr. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Lane? Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Markison?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Next is the Human Resources Report. Are there any questions or discussion on the Human Resources Report? May I have a motion to approve the Human Resources Report as presented?
I move that the Lake Forest Community High School District 115 Board of Education approve the Human Resources Report as presented.
Second.
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Lane? Mr. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Mormon?
Aye.
Mrs. Carling?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Elliott?
Aye.
Mr. Markison?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Next is the consent agenda items. I want to remind everybody that any item on the consent agenda may be removed at the request of a board member. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items, including, gotta go to the second page, approval of disbursements for November 2015, minutes of a regular meeting November 9th, 2015, minutes of an executive session dated November 9th, 2015, minutes of a board workshop November 9, 2015, minutes of a joint board workshop November 12th, 2015, minutes of joint executive session November 12th, 2015, disposal of audio recordings dated May 13th and May 15th, 2014. May I have a motion?
I move that the Lake Forest Community High School District 115 Board of Education approve the consent agenda items as presented.
A second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Powers?
Aye.
Mr. Lane? Mrs. Carling?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Dr. Elliott?
Aye.
Mr. Mormon?
Aye.
Mr. Markison?
Aye.
Motion passes.
We have a FOIA request from Nancy Thorner, resident. That's the only one this month. Some announcements. This is always my favorite because I think people think I actually decide that Wednesday, December 2nd is a late start date. So I now, tomorrow will be a late start date. Sounds funny. Sunday, December 13th is the holiday concert and spaghetti dinner, which I've been to. It's a lot of fun. Instrumental concerts. Oh, all on the same day. Holiday concert and spaghetti dinner. The instrumental concerts, the spaghetti dinner starts at 4:45, and the choral concert at RMA starts at 7 p.m. On Friday, December 18th, winter break begins at the close of the school day, and school reopens on January 4th. Monday, January 11th, we're right back here in the same room at 6:30 for a Board of Education meeting. So,
May I mention the
oh, I'm
IASB?
sorry. I'm sorry.
It's out of order. Is it still okay?
That's okay.
I wanted to mention that I had attended the Illinois Association of School Boards annual meeting last weekend. Suzanne Sands of District 67 was there, as well as Mr. Simic. And I would highly recommend that we consider going next year as a board. I sat through the day-long basics of governance with all the other new board members in the state of Illinois, and we all admitted our ignorance about a number of things. We learned a lot. But then in addition, there are a lot of general sessions that I wish I could have split myself into pieces to have gone to on finance, on legislative agendas. I chose to look at a couple of different things that I do think are worth the board considering. ISBA has a number of resources that as a member we are entitled to. One of them that I hope the board will consider is inviting IASB in to do a board self-evaluation exercise with us, which is a day-long presentation. I know District 67 did it recently. I think they found it very valuable. The other thing that they can do, and something that IASB is putting a lot of resources into right now, is the community engagement aspect of our responsibilities as board members, and I think it's because IASB recognizes that all boards struggle with how best to do that and how to do that in a way that's productive for their communities. And it was helpful to see how many people I talked to in boards all over Illinois have that issue. They do have a day-long also planning training session for that I hope we would consider. Thanks.
Okay. 7:45, not bad. May I have a motion to adjourn the Lake Forest High School Board of Education meeting?
So
Nobody wants to
moved.
leave? Oh. Second. Second? Ted seconded. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.